pre-warn any listeners that this was quite a disturbed man, and some of the content is extremely dark, so viewer discretion is advised. Aleister Crowley was born Edward Alexander Crowley in Warwickshire, England on the 12th of October 1875, and was one of the great characters of the 20th century. He was also an occultist, ceremonial magician, poet, painter, novelist, mountaineer, spy, self-affirmed drug fiend, sex addict, and a social provocateur, to name but a few. Crowley was born into a wealthy family at 30 Clarendon Square, Royal Leamington Spa in Warwickshire, and was educated at Trinity College University in Cambridge, where he focused his attentions on mountaineering and poetry, which did result in several publications. It was also whilst at university that he began to use the name Aleister and gained a reputation for skill at chess. At Cambridge University, Crowley maintained a vigorous sex life, predominantly with female prostitutes, from one of whom he caught syphilis. He also experimented in same-sex activities, despite their illegality in the UK at the time. In October 1897, Crowley met Herbert Charles Pollitt, who was the president of the Cambridge University Footlights Dramatic Club, and the two quickly entered into a sexual relationship. The relationship, however, soon broke down due in part to Pollitt not sharing Crowley's increasing interest in Western esotericism. It was a breakup that Crowley would regret for many years to come. Using the funds of his substantial inheritance, Crowley travelled widely, and in 1897 he travelled to St. Petersburg in Russia, asserting that he was intent on immersing himself in the Russian language and culture, as he was strongly considering a diplomatic career there. Whilst in Russia, a brief illness triggered strong considerations of mortality and the futility of all human endeavour, which resulted in Crowley abandoning all thoughts of a diplomatic career in favour of pursuing an overwhelming interest in the occult, and bestowing the name The Beast 666 upon himself. He obtained A.E. Waite's The Book of Black Magic and of Pacts, which only increased his strong and rapidly growing desire of the occult. That same year, Crowley privately published 100 copies of his own creation, the poem Akeldama, A Place to Bury Strangers. However, it was a limited success and was followed by a string of other poems, including White Stains, a decadent collection of erotic poetry, which was printed abroad due to the fact its publication was prohibited by the British authorities. In July 1898, Crowley left Cambridge, not having taken any degree at all, and despite a first-class showing in his 1897 exams and consistent second-class honours results before that. On the 18th of November 1898, Crowley was initiated into the Outer Order of the Golden Dawn, which was founded by a group of Masons in the late 19th century. The society embraced mysticism and the occult. Other members included novelist Bram Stoker, Sherlock Holmes creator Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and poet William Butler Yeats. Crowley was drawn to the group by their shared interest in alchemy, though some biographers have suggested that Crowley may have initially infiltrated the organisation under orders from the British Secret Services. Whilst on a visit to Egypt in 1904, Crowley reported several mystical experiences which resulted in him writing The Book of Law, a prose poem which he claimed had been dictated to him in a disembodied voice by a spirit called Iwas. In it he established his most famous teaching, "Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law." Crowley made this the basis of a new religion, which he called Thelema. The Book of Law was accepted as scripture by the Ordo Templi Orientis, a mystical group of German origin, and in 1907 he founded his own order, the AA, using the initials that stood for the Latin words Silver Star. Crowley moved into his own luxury flat at 67 to 69 Chancery Lane, London, and invited a senior Golden Dawn member, Mr. Alan Bennett, to live with him. Bennett taught Crowley more about ceremonial magic and the ritual use of sex and drugs, and together they performed the dangerous rituals of demonology. In November 1899, Crowley purchased Boleskine House, a lonely yet substantial manor house situated on the south-east side of Loch Ness in the Scottish Highlands. He believed the location was ideal to sequester himself to perform a series of rituals known as the sacred magic of Abramelin the Mage. Boleskine House had a dark past prior to its occupation by Crowley. Minister Thomas Houston, 1648 to 1705, was tasked of hastily laying animated corpses back in their graves after a local occultist had raised the dead in Boleskine graveyard. Crowley found the manor's history extremely enticing and believed the location was ideal to sequester himself to perform a series of operations, as previously stated. The Abramelin ritual begins by actually stating that no one should ever attempt it. It involves a 6-month-long process of intense fasting, self-torture, and rigorous ceremonial rituals to invoke your guardian angel. If one is successful in such invocation, they may ask their guardian angel to do anything or answer any questions they may have. However, if the ritual fails or is not carried through to the end, demonic spirits infiltrate both the space in which the ritual was conducted and the person conducting the ritual. By all registered accounts, the Abramelin is considered one of the most dangerous rituals to attempt in magic. Crowley's hedonistic brand of neo-paganism centered on the pursuit of finding one's true will, which equated to throwing off the protective wrapping of Christianity and embracing all things forbidden. Crowley frequently used sex and psychoactive drugs to bring himself and his flock of followers closer to the spirits and demons that lived beyond the realm of the human, and which would, under the correct circumstances, communicate with mortal souls. In April 1920, Crowley moved to Italy and found a secluded villa in Cefalù to rent, and subsequently moved in with his lovers/female sex magic practitioners, Leah Hersig and Nanette Shumway, also their 3 children, one of which Crowley fathered. The children were given a libertine education and often witnessed acts of sex. Crowley occasionally travelled to Palermo to visit rent boys and also buy supplies, including drugs. His heroin addiction was now dominating his life, and cocaine had begun to erode his navel cavities. There was no cleaning rota at the abbey, and wild animals would wander throughout the building, many of which were captured and used in sacrificial rituals, resulting in the manor quickly becoming unsanitary. On one occasion at the abbey, Crowley summoned the Thelema version of Satan, Choronzon. Choronzon is a formless demon who takes the shape of someone that the summoner finds provocative. If you summon Choronzon, you must defeat him or face dire consequences. Crowley did just that, trapping the demon in a magical barrier before debating and eventually defeating him. He also held bodily fluids very sacred. When he established Thelema, many of the rituals integral to the religion revolved not only around sexuality, but also the ingestion of bodily fluids from sexual organs. One particular ritual, the Mass of the Phoenix, participants were given food to consume. The food, called cakes of light, were equivalent to the communion wafers given in the Catholic Church. However, in a possible slight of the Christian faith, these wafers were not bread symbolizing the flesh of Christ, but rather the cakes of light contained bodily fluids such as semen and menstrual blood. Crowley claimed that consuming these bodily fluids would provide power to the ritual's participants. And it was here that Crowley founded the Abbey of Thelema. New followers continued to arrive at the Abbey, eager to be taught by Crowley. Among them was the silent film star Jane Wolfe, who arrived in July 1920. Another was Cecil Frederick Russell, who often argued with Crowley, strongly protesting his dislike of the same-sex magic he was required to perform. Both Leah and Ninette were in continuous awe of Crowley and completely under his control. Leah Hersig wrote in her 1921 diary, "I dedicate myself wholly to the great work. I will work for wickedness. I will kill my heart. I will be shameless before all men. I will freely prostitute my body to all creatures." And she was true to her word. Many of the rituals that took place at the Abbey of Thelema are beyond the realms of the depraved. However, the more minor of the rituals conducted there include animal sacrifice, the consumption of animal blood, eating feces, bestiality, necrophilia, and Leah's attempt to induce a he-goat to copulate with her. The latter emulated an ancient pagan ritual according to Crowley. However, in February 1922, Crowley returned to Paris in an unsuccessful attempt to kick his heroin addiction. It is important to note that the Abramelin ritual was not complete, despite the demonic consequences of non-completion. However, shortly after Crowley's return to the Abbey, a young Thelemite by the name of Raoul Loveday moved in with his wife. They were made to drink the blood of a sacrificed cat and cut themselves with razors every time they used the pronoun I. Loveday developed a liver infection which resulted in his death, and it is unclear if his death was the result of drinking the cat's blood or drinking water from a local contaminated stream. The fascist government of Benito Mussolini soon learned of Crowley's depraved activities, and in April 1923 Crowley was given a deportation notice forcing him to leave Italy. Without him, the Abbey of Thelema was no more. Interest in the occult was not limited to Aleister Crowley's circle. In Germany in the 1930s, ideas of the occult and mysticism heavily influenced Nazi culture, and both Heinrich Himmler and Rudolf Hess, both extremely high-ranking Nazi officials, were deeply interested in the occult. And during World War II, it is claimed that Crowley was at the centre of a British plot to lure Rudolf Hess to Britain for interrogation. And if the claims are to be believed, Ian Fleming, intelligence officer and writer of the James Bond series, wanted Crowley to help him entice Hess to Britain under the guise of meeting regarding the occult. Now this certainly raises an eyebrow to note that Hess flew to the UK in May of 1941, so you can make your own assumptions regarding this. Although Aleister Crowley was not formally enlisted in World War II, he may have still played an important role, albeit a symbolic one. One of Winston Churchill's most iconic signs, his V for victory symbol, is said to have been influenced by Crowley. Crowley claimed that he suggested the sign to Churchill as a symbol that would counteract the power of the Nazi swastika. Again, you can make your own assumptions regarding this. Crowley was certainly a very influential person to many, including Led Zeppelin's Jimmy Page, who purchased his former residence in Scotland, Boleskine House, and also the Beatles. In fact, on their Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band album cover, Crowley's picture is situated in between Mae West and Sri Yukteswar. On December the 1st, 1947, Aleister Crowley, penniless and dependent on heroin and alcohol, died alone of respiratory failure at a boarding house in Hastings, southeast England. He was 72 years of age. My final conclusion. Aleister Crowley greatly influenced 20th century practitioners of esoteric magic through both word and through deed, and is without doubt one of history's most fascinating and jarring figures. Equally heralded as both a genius and as an occult lunatic, one of his most notable contributions to the occult world was his emphasis on sexuality and free expression of gender roles. He was larger than life and a visionary, widely reviled by some, yet greatly respected by others.
Aleister Crowley. Sick bastard. Now let's look into your boy Anton Levy, yo.
No PSA.
Anton Levy. Another sick bastard. What up with Sammy Davis Jr., man? What's up with him, yo? Legendary Sammy Davis Jr. Got him gripped up like the young buck. Shammy. Look at Shammy, yo. Because he woke up. I probably never knew that, did y'all, about Sammy. Shammy. Look at Shammy. Shammy out there looking like a Templar. A Knights Templar, ain't he, y'all? Let's check out Anton Levy, y'all.
Some time ago, the wire services and newspapers carried a story out of San Francisco describing the first satanic wedding ceremony ever performed. The pictures showed a nude woman lying on the altar behind the guest, whom you see now, the Reverend Anton Szandor LaVey, who is the founder and high priest of the First Church of Satan. Anton Szandor LaVey uses as somewhat of a credo this timeless quote: "Remember, evil backwards spells live." Somehow that never occurred to me.
It never occurred to me until one of my disciples brought it forth, and I imagine it's quite true with many of us.
How often do you have to shave your head to make it shiny like a devil?
I have to put Vaseline on it as well to keep it shiny. I shave it once a day. Can I give a plug?
Is that the odor you're giving off now, Vaseline?
No,
You'd have fooled me.
That's musk.
That's musk.
That's the goatee scent you smell.
For sure it's not frankincense and myrrh.
No.
What is this ring you're wearing here? Looks like it's weighing your hand down.
Well, no, it's a magical ring.
It is?
I have little children rub it, make a wish, and it comes true.
Little children come near you?
Of course. Little children
what
and
kind
animals.
of a wish did that ring ever make come true?
Well, I would say a great many wishes, but we won't go into them.
Now, you call yourself a satanic priest.
Yes.
Is that the opposite of God?
No, because Satan is a god, too.
Mm-hmm. Well, what are you then, the dirty pope, or what?
Oh, I guess you could call me that if you want to say the black pope or the dirty pope or the advocate of, for example, the kingdom of night or darkness. No one's ever come forth so far and spoken up for the devil. Everybody that's made rules and regulations concerning the devil or the devil's work, the devil's activities have been people that have been very righteous people during crusades, people...
Well, I'm not too righteous, but on the other hand, I think you're a bit of a dingaling, let's face it. Were you ever a religious fellow?
I would say not particularly.
You're a young man.
I'm a religious fellow now, though.
How old are you?
I'm 36.
36. Who ordained you a satanic priest?
I would say probably I received the call. Just as any fundamentalist...
Well, most of us do, but we fight it.
Why fight it? This is, of course, the whole principle of my religion, is all of the concepts...
What do you mean you received the call? You mean one day the devil said, go out, Anton Zandor LaVey, and give people hell? Huh? Is that what happened?
That's about it. Because people like to have a hell of a time, don't they?
Well, of course, there are all kinds of definitions of that.
Well, now...
Now, I don't, to marry two people without a license in front of a naked babe lying up on an altar, I don't know what that is.
Well, seriously, there are explanations for these things. And how I started was as a result of various reverse forms of therapy. I haven't been a satanic priest all my life, as you probably gathered.
You've probably been an inmate part of your life.
Well, an inmate in possibly a pretty big institution.
Are you at all afraid that someday, after you get through this big put-on, that, with your little red yo-yo and your big fat ring and your shiny bald head, that when they do pack you away...
Well, now, wait a minute.
If there's any justice, you've got to really get it.
Yes, sir.
Are you planning on training a lot of little devils?
Only those that wish to become little devils.
Are you married?
Oh, yes.
Do you have any little devils?
Oh, yes, I have two.
Are you going to raise them as satanic kids?
Certainly, but not to go around chopping people up or sacrificing human beings, just to...
That would be the greatest reward of all if your kid some night would creep in and set fire to you and your lion.
Well, no.
Huh?
No.
And then dance around with pitchforks and say, look at Daddy, look at Daddy. Huh? Now, if you sleep with your lion, where does Mrs. Devil sleep?
She sleeps with the lion, too, you see. Not between us, though. The lion's on one side.
Makes for a nice grouping.
I don't believe in separating church and state.
There's some people in the dock who would like to speak to you. We'll be going to the dock and the devil after these words.
What the world needs is a good whipping. I haven't come forth in a great many years because I didn't want to be relegated to another guest on a TV talk show. But I can assure you, Satanism is here to stay. Satan can take the form of a beautiful woman. Satan can take the form of a sleek animal. An automobile can be very satanic. These things can be anthropomorphized into Satan. Well, when I was a teenager, I was interested in the occult. And the occult in those days meant you got dream books and you got books on fortune telling and all that sort of thing. And the closest thing there was to anything about calling up spirits or demons and that sort of thing was a lot of gobbledygook where you stood around in a circle and you used the protective names of Jehovah and Jesus and all that. And I tried it. Oh, Lord knows I tried it, but it didn't work. And so I thought to myself, well, if I'm going to call up any demons, if I'm going to get any magical power, if I'm going to get anything going my way, I better get on the side of those guys instead of protecting myself from them. I love life very much, and it's been said that I can't possibly love life, that I'm a very unhappy man, or must be a very unhappy man. And I would say that I'm a very happy man, an extremely happy man, in a compulsively unhappy world. The Church of Satan would have nothing to do with something like breeders or abductions of children or stealing of animals or that sort of thing, because again, the question why certainly isn't very satanic to want to take anything against its will. My relationships with some of the sex goddesses of the past have been largely as a result of luck more than anything else. However, in the case of Jane Mansfield, she was an active member of the Church of Satan and certainly under tragic circumstances left the Church of Satan. In the situation concerning Miss Monroe, that was a long, long time ago, long before the Church of Satan. However, she did have an unswerving interest in the dark side of life. And I think that was one of the main reasons that we managed to hit it off the way we did. To the detractors or the accusers or the people of the other side that would say that Satanists would like to kill animals, sacrifice animals, I would say that they would make ideal human sacrifices. I love animals. I've always been part of animals. Animals are part of me. I believe that all churches of all denominations should be taxed to the hilt. If churches were taxed as any other business, because that's what they are, simply businesses, if they were taxed, the national debt would be wiped out overnight.